Welcome to the 4.3 extension video. What this is about areas of composite figures. So first of all, we're going to define what a composite figure is. I'll give you a couple examples, and then we're going to figure out how to find the area of one. So here we go. So a composite figure is made up of triangles, squares, rectangles, and other shapes and figures. And here's an example of what one would look like. So on this one, or when you're a little kid, or maybe you still do, which is totally fine, when you would draw a house, you would make a composite figure. Here we have a rectangle, and up here we have a triangle. So this becomes a composite figure because we have two different figures in there that's making up this figure, which we call a composite figure. Here's another example. So here, I don't know what this is, maybe a outline of a mountain, I don't know. Okay, so, but we have a square, and then we have a trapezoid. So right now, thinking about this, before we move on to any examples, I want you to think about the fact, could you find the area of shapes or figures like this if you had all the dimensions? We did this in our challenge video yesterday, or our challenge video problem, and a lot of you struggled with it. So now I'm going to give you an example of how to figure it out, and I think you'll easily understand. So the first step here is to find the area of a composite figure. You're going to separate it into figures with areas you know how to find. Then you're just going to find the sum of those areas. Don't forget that sum means addition. So we're going to take all those areas that you find, and you're going to add them all up, and then you have the area of the entire composite figure. Alright, here's my first example for you. So the first thing I'm looking at is I've got a figure that I've got a whole bunch of numbers telling me how long the lengths of each of these sides are. So the first thing I need to do is identify each shape and find any missing dimensions. And what I mean by that is I got to break this shape up to where I know how to solve for it. The easiest and the best way that I have come up with to do this is to take and put a line right here. Then I have a rectangle and a triangle. I know that the area of a rectangle equals length times width, and the area of a triangle equals 1/2 times base times height. So I could solve for both of those. So the first thing I'm going to start with is my area of my rectangle. So that would be all of this area from down here, over here, up, and over. So it would be this entire area here, and I'm actually going to color that. And this is the area I'm trying to find right now. So I'm going to start with my A's. My first one would be length times width, or base times height, however you want to do it. What is my length and my width? So I have a length of 40 yards, and I have a width of, 70 yards, and I have a width of 40 yards. So and it doesn't matter what order you put these in, you're going to get the same thing. So I've got 70 times 40. I just plug them in like I normally would. Let's do the zeros trick here. And to do your zeros trick, you can say 7 times 4 equals 28. And how many zeros do I have left? Or how many did I use? 1, 2. So I add on my 2. So it's 2,800 yards, or yards squared. So that's what I get for the area of my for my rectangle. Okay, here's my rectangle. Now my area of my triangle, I know area equals 1/2 times base times height. I can keep my 1/2, but I have to figure out what is my base and what is my height. So looking at my area of my triangle, which would be this section here, we know, I'm going to actually erase that, because we know that from here to here, that creates our right triangle. That's where our height could be. So this line here is indicating a height. What is this line here indicating? Nothing, because that's not my base. But we have a base right here, and we don't know what that base is. So we've got a height of 40. How do I figure out what that base would be? Well, I look at the information I know. So in other words, from here to here is 40 yards. Well, if from here to here is 70 yards and this is 40 yards, all I have to do is say 70 minus 40 equals 30. So that indicates that this base right here is 30 yards. So this ends up being 30. So I found an unknown length right here because I just took and did what I knew. I did some algebra. I knew this length and I knew this length. And because this is right here and this is right here, I subtracted the two. So now I can go ahead and figure this out. To me, let me get my pink. To me, 30 times 40 is pretty easy because 3 times 4 is 12. Then I can add my zeros. Then I can multiply it by 1/2, splitting or cutting 1200 right in half. 1200 divided by 2 ends up giving me 600. So now I have 600 yards squared. Am I finished? No, because my directions told me to take whatever two areas I have and add them together. So all I'm going to do is take my 2800 and I'm going to add it to my 600, add them up. 8 and 6 gives me 14. 2 plus 1 is 3. So I come up with a total of 3,400 yards squared would be my final answer of that composite figure. So I had a figure that had, I wasn't sure what the shapes were. I had to figure out what shapes worked best, and I went from there. So this is your only example. I'm going to give you a couple practice problems and see how well you do. We will do some more practice with this in class. Okay, so these two are a little tricky, so try your best here. We'll talk about these in class if we need to. So looking at here, I just want to point a couple things out. Right now, so from here to here is 12 feet. Same thing down here. From here to here is 12 feet. So what they're indicating right here and right here is that, so basically this imaginary line from here to the point, so right here to here is 5 feet. Same thing down here, from here to here is 5 feet. If it would help you to see this actually in the book, it's on page 173, and it's number 4. So 173, number 4, if you need to see it a little bit better. And this one over here is number 6. So if it helps you a little bit, go for it. And then on this one, number 2, so from here to here is 10 inches, from here to here is 10 inches, and then here to here, 6 inches, and then what they're saying is this height here from down and over is 4 inches. Okay? So your first thing is, how can I split up these figures to be figures I know how to solve? Lots of different options. You don't have to do just one way, but you might have to do some calculations to figure out what an unknown portion of it is. Okay? Do your best. I'll give you the answers on the next page, and then if you have questions tomorrow, we'll talk about them in class. And here are the answers for 1 and 2, 120 feet squared and 132 inches squared.